listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
Mark Williams returns for Father's Day. Well, hi there. Welcome back. I'm here with Mark Williams, and he's actually joining us for the second time. Mark has so much stuff going on that one visit is definitely not enough. So I'm so thrilled to be able to connect up with Mark. He's so busy running around doing, he has books and talks. He did a TED talk. And so I guess I'm getting ahead of things. So why don't I do my standard who you are and what you do, Mark? So why don't you give us a little blurb on that?
Hi, Mark. Yeah, thanks for having me on today. And it's always a pleasure talking to you. And so I'm known for parents, fathers I'm known for, but it's about supporting all parents for their mental health, which has far better outcomes for the whole family and the child's development. So if you're looking and caring for both parents, obviously that's going to have far better outcomes. So I'm all about parents, but I'm known for fathers because nobody's really talking about fathers' mental health going back 11 years ago when I first started. So it was all about making sure fathers are actually included. Never about taking the attention away from mum. Never has been. It's just saying, look, dads can struggle with their mental health during this time for various reasons. So yeah, so thanks for asking me to come on. Yeah.
Oh, you're very welcome, and you went right to the gusto of it. So you sort of focus very much on dad's mental health, and as you said, and it's unfortunate you have to give that disclaimer, but you have to, where you say, we're talking about one gender, but we're not taking away from the other gender. But and that sort of should be a given, but it's not. I think anytime we talk about men, there's immediately that sort of, well, are you taking away from women? No, of course we're not. We're not taking away from moms. We're not taking away from women. We're just focusing on dudes and men and being a dad. And you have had your own experiences, and you have written, I think, at least one book, if not more. And you have some exciting news too, because now there's actually a movie based on your book. Can you tell us the name of that?
Yeah. It's called Daddy Blues. I was lucky to get published the book in 2018. And it's a memoir about my own experience, witnessing birth trauma, Michelle, my wife, going for severe postnatal, and then even all the thoughts and feelings mums get when it comes to postnatal. Of course, I was getting those feelings as well, guilt, not good enough, overwhelmed, lack of sleep, all sorts of things were going on in a short space of time. So basically from the book, actually, it was translated in China, it's been in Korean, but only recently, I think it's grown and grown now. And luckily, a wonderful doctor named Pavanda Shargil, she's an NHS mental health doctor, director, and produced the book. Helped me produce the film as well. And it's actually gone on Amazon Prime. And if you Google IMDb Daddy Blues, you can see it on there. You can. But yeah, so it's really a film to educate parents, health professionals from a father's perspective of postnatal as well. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. And like I said, same as you, Mark, an author. I'm pretty fortunate that I've written a book on fathers, an academic book with Dr. Jane Hanley I work with, and obviously they contribute to other books, which is pretty good when you think of it. I left school at 15 with no qualifications and find out I had dyslexia and ADHD. So, if I could do it, anyone can.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't know about the dyslexia. And I thought, I know about it now, but I didn't when we had first talked and interacted and things like that, because it's not like something you brought up, except for one comment you made. And I'm not plugging my book, but you read one of my books. And one of your comments was you felt it was easy to read because of the way it was laid out. And when I asked you as a follow-up on that, because I actually was connected to you, I thought, what did you mean by that? And you actually said because of the spacing and everything, it was easier to read for you.
Absolutely, yeah. And the second book, obviously, my wife's read it now. A second book, so So unfortunately, my mother-in-law enjoyed it, but unfortunately, my mother-in-law passed away during COVID. So my mother-in-law really enjoyed the book as well. So but yeah, I found it. I haven't read the second book yet, but personally myself. But the first book, it was just easy to read the way it was worded, and it was clear. And sometimes I can, I take my time with the book, and I'm very much with certain books I got to take my time. But definitely, that's what I liked about the book as well, and obviously the story.
Well, I was very impressed by that because most people would not say it's an easy read. In fact, it's a fairly dense book. Some of the reviews have said you have to definitely take your time reading it. So I thought, well, he's not talking about that. So, for someone who has dyslexia, you clearly absorb fairly detailed things very well. So I think that's really cool. But I don't want to spend any more time talking about my book because we're here to talk to you about your stuff. And I want to congratulate you on the movie. That's such exciting stuff. I mean, I didn't even realize it was already out. So, as I always say, I'll have links to all that stuff too in the article that comes with this, so people can see Daddy Blues and read your book. And you also have a network that you're part of, that you're supporting dads and so forth. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I founded International Fathers Mental Health Day with Dr. Daniel Singley from America. And it's actually grown, and it's always a day after Father's Day in the UK. So this year is June the 21st. And it's just a day to raise awareness, blogs, anyone can be involved, to share what, explain about fathers' mental health as well, and also provide, what information or support they're doing in their areas as well, So the day's really grown. But yes, over the years, I've spoke to a lot of fathers, but also mums have been saying to me, Mark, I'm okay, or I've been supported, but my partner has really struggled with mental health, and that's actually impacted my own mental health. So this is why we should be having a more realistic approach when it comes to looking after parents, really, because if you don't look after dad, well, dad's less likely to support mum and obviously read, write, and sing, and have a play with their son as well. So, let's support dads for their mental health, because it has far better outcomes as well, So, but go back on your book, Mark. I gotta say this, when I say easy read, it was easy for me to read because the way it was worded. And so, you should plug your book more, Mark.
I appreciate that. I didn't intend to plug it during your interview, but thank you very much. You're welcome to plug it anytime you want. So I guess it's whatever the guest wants to do. But anyway, I wanted to okay. So the book is actually a father-daughter story. It's a coming of age. So I guess it is apropos to what we're talking about. And I will spend a little bit of time on it in one of the other podcasts, but I didn't want to take away from you, but yes, it is a father-daughter story. So, and it's just so cool to get the word out about that, because as you said, you have to support the dad, because, the two of you are in that together. You need the dad for support of the mom. Each parent is equally as involved in different ways. I mean, studies have shown there's an odd statistic out there that is just really, once you hear it, it's strange how if you remove the mom from the household, it has one effect, but if you remove the dad, it has an even more devastating effect. And you would have never thought that, because we always turn to women as being the nurturers and all that stuff, and and rightly so and naturally. But crime and homelessness and all that other stuff skyrockets with people who come from a home without a dad, and it's just such a bizarre thing.
Absolutely, yeah. It's funny. I published a report only last year, and it's really gaining momentum now that actually demonstrates that as well. That I think not supporting a dad during the perinatal period, it does manifest into different areas. Unfortunately, sometimes, especially with fathers, how they present sometimes if they're struggling with their mental health, they're more likely to avoid situations, use alcohol, drugs, feelings of anger. So those sorts of feelings, because men tend to suppress those feelings,
yes,
it comes out differently, and looks differently. So if I give an example, when we think about, say, postnatal depression, like I just mentioned, fathers struggle to bond with their babies, or for various reasons. It could be fathers feel guilt, not good enough. Everything you think about postnatal depression, the signs and symptoms with mums, there's not one with dads. The big stigma around postnatal depression when it comes to fathers as well is basically, we always associate it with hormones. Well, there's a hormone change in fathers. Testosterone actually lowers during this time as well. But there's no really strong evidence. You ask any professor or doctor who works in perinatal mental health, that hormones is the cause of postnatal depression. It could be a range of reasons why mums and dads get postnatal depression. Past history, undiagnosed disorders, ADHD, ASD, bipolar, schizophrenia. The lack of sleep, severe lack of sleep, can cause psychosis. Dads struggle bonding, and as we know, we need to encourage fathers with skin to skin with their babies, because that actually releases oxytocin, which is good for dad and the baby as well. So when we look at dads, I always say to the mums, is your partner changed in his personality since the pregnancy or in the first year of fatherhood as well? So we got to start looking at fathers' behaviors rather than judging them sometimes, because a lot of fathers I spoke to, unfortunately, the relationships have ended when I talk to them, they've had the intrusive thoughts like mums get as well, which is OCD, more recognized as maternal OCD, but we know fathers can experience all the thoughts and feelings like that as well. So this is why my work's all about this, looking at the father, why is he behaving into me? And sometimes he just needs support, he needs to gain that confidence and give him that time as well. As we know, fatherhood has totally changed from when my father was a minor, grandfather was minors, and it's all about equality, gender equality for me as well,
Right. And you can have equality with differences. I mean, you can be equal parents, but also have varying duties, and the duties can change based on the sort of the synergy of your relationship with someone. One couple may handle things quite differently than another couple, including the way that discipline is handled by one parent or both. And you also mentioned, just the dads getting, even before getting help, it's just sort of recognition that they are being emotionally impacted by this. Because, when you have a child, especially your first, it changes your entire world. I mean, the amount of time, as we say on the show, time, energy, and resources, it changes the amount of time and energy that both parents have for everything else in their life, because now they have this number one priority in their life out of nowhere. I mean, you sort of are prepped a little bit for it when your wife is pregnant, but all of a sudden this baby just shows up out of nowhere, essentially. And suddenly your life takes a 90-degree turn, and the way that you handle your time, the way that how much energy you have, it's all being devoted in a certain way, which leaves less for both people, which means, more stress, less tolerance, less resilience. It pulls on the strings of your relationship as well and tests you. And so it does it for both people, but we don't really think of it that way. We just think of the dad as going back to work and do, but that's not how it works emotionally for people. People don't just go, well, I'm male, so nothing bothers me.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work that way.
No, Mark, you're so right. And the thing is, a big thing that, birth trauma especially is really getting on par with mums, where dads are witnesses trauma and not even asked about their mental health, PTSD, we know it's an anxiety disorder, either witnessing or experiencing a life-threatening event. So a lot of these fathers are witnessing this trauma, and the old word in the UK, man up and all this sort of thing, and that's why we got high rates of suicide in men as well. And so we got to ask a question: why are men unfortunately taking their lives? And when we look at the research, actually, fathers up to 20 times more likely to be depressed compared to a non-father as well. So there's loads of different things, relationships, everything alters when you have a new baby. Fathers expecting, go to the gym, and now the baby comes along, they can't go to the gym anymore or socialize like he used to. And so there's loads of reasons why sometimes fathers, isolation is a big factor. And, like I said, like yourself, Mark, we're going to start thinking, there's more stay-at-home dads now than ever before, especially in the UK, and, mums in Parliament or working away, and dads are running home. So we got to start looking at supporting dad better, because obviously then that'll have better outcomes for that child's development as well growing up.
Right, exactly. And so it's so nice that you focus on those things. It's so nice that you that you bring them to light. And it's interesting the state of things that you needed to do that. It's amazing how there is just this underbelly of things that people may not even be aware of, and we just sort of take for granted. And it's great that you've actually brought this up, that you have it in your books, you have it in your talks, you've experienced it yourself, and you have the movie. So I would ask you, just sort of out of nowhere, what advice would you have for a new dad? Let's say somebody's listening right now, and they're expecting in the next month or so. What would you say to them? What do you think you could say to them that you wish someone had told you?
Yeah, definitely, Mark. And I think the good thing is about what we see. Well, it's a lot different than when I was a new dad. Nearly 17 years ago. We got COVID now as well, which is something we didn't talk about last time in the last podcast. And the pressures the father's under now, and I think a lot of good things have come out of COVID as well. Dads have been home more, and then obviously that has actually helped. But unfortunately, there's the other side where uncertainty and the family support hasn't been around the parents where they would have been normally. So there's different pressures now, I think, especially on social media. Even social media has got a part to play where that wasn't around when I was a new dad. This expect, perfect family. And, Mr. Jones has gone on holidays with lovely, great photographs of his family. And Mr. Thomas up the road is unfortunately using food banks, and he's on benefit. He can't, he feels guilty and not good enough as a dad. So he's overthinking a lot of things. So pressures have changed today than it was when I was a new dad. But if there's any advice, I would certainly say, look, parenthood is tough. It is tough sometimes. It's the best experience I've ever had to be a father. But it can be hard. It can be hard. And I think that's the conversations we need to be having, that, sometimes it can be tough, and for various reasons, the lack of sleep, as we just mentioned just now. But the best thing to do is actually, don't suffer in silence, educate yourself and speak to other fathers. And what you'll find by speaking to other fathers, you'll find it's very common that fathers tend to struggle for various reasons during this time. That transition into parenthood, isolation, that like I mentioned, I keep saying the lack of sleep, so yeah, it's very common. And you won't believe the stats, especially in the UK, 60% of fathers wanted support for their mental health during the first lockdown in the UK, and second, it was up to 64%. And before COVID, we found that 39% of fathers, young fathers, wanted support for their mental health. So we can see there's been a big increase of antenatal anxiety in fathers during COVID, which wasn't as much as it was pre. So this is a really big time to talk about fatherhood and mental health as well. And that's why I'm always grateful for you raising this awareness, especially in America as well, because like I said, it's a different structure in the UK compared to America. And I think, especially in the US, a lot of perinatal mental health services are starting to get bigger and bigger now, but we need to make sure that all parents are supported for their mental health as well.
Right. I think you touched on a few items that I think are worth mentioning again, which is the suffering in silence and the isolation. And there's been, with the lockdowns and things, there's been isolation on top of isolation. And having a child can create this isolation because you are sort of focusing inwardly in your house on things, and you kind of forget about the outside world a lot. And then when you have this lockdown on top of that, I can't even imagine what it's like to have, let's say, a 7-year-old right now, an 8-year-old, or a newborn baby, in the middle of how the world kind of turned upside down. No pun intended for my book, but how everything is kind of upside down, and this isolation. And it's just one of the worst things, because people don't realize how easy it is to find someone to talk to. And I know people are just going to roll their eyes at that. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. But it really is, because people willing to listen, friends, and like you have this wonderful network of dads, that if people connect with you and your network, they can connect with other people and just share their thoughts. And with technology, we don't have to go get in a big giant room and stand up and say, "Hi, I'm Bill and I'm sad." You're able to actually connect on the internet, whether it's on Twitter or whether it's on, forums or what have you. You can connect up with these other people. So I would urge people, as my take on the advice would be, to definitely seek out, Mark's network, not to be confused with the Mark who's talking right now, but Mark Williams, his network, and connect up. And just even if you feel like everything's perfect, everything's fine, but it's always nice to kind of be connected and see maybe what you're up against or maybe what's going to happen, just have a heads up. And it's just nice to have the knowledge, because having a child for the first time is so disorienting, because, you have this life in your hands and no amount of talking or preparation can really prepare you for how that feels. So it's just good to have that you have that network in place for them.
You're right, Mark. And I think what I found over the years is once you get one dad talking to another dad about his experience, there's a big myth that men don't talk. They will talk if in a safe place and in a non-judgmental way. That's the thing. Men then tend to talk, and it's just getting one father in the group to talk about his experience. Right? My phone got off. And then they do open up. So they will open up sometimes, a lot of times in the groups. Even last week we did a group with 7 dads, and when I talked about my experience, and a good friend of mine, Scott, he's a father of 7, 7. And after listening to me talk, and he understood what he went through as a father as well. He was ex-armed forces, and he every time he struggled when his wife became pregnant, Sarah, he was having anxiety or depression, and every time he went back to GP, they always associated it with his past from the armed forces, but in fact, it was actually from witnessing a traumatic birth from the first baby. So you can imagine, for the last all those years where he didn't know and didn't understand what was going on. Yeah, so this is education. It's educating that fathers they can suffer too as well. And the best advice I can give is actually just open up about their mental health. Don't be ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And certainly I went through it, suffering in silence for years. But it was the best thing when I actually opened up, because it actually went on to do, have a career in doing something I love and helping other people as well. So
yeah, I think we're so lucky to have you. I mean, it's so nice that you decided to commit to that sort of thing, because, other people might have just said, well, I'll just go pursue my other thing. That was my own private little hell, my own private little thing I had to deal with. And I'm just unique, but you're not unique. And I think that's one of the nicest factors of having technology connect people, is to see that you're not alone.
Absolutely. And it is. And I think it's a good point you just said, Mark, because I do a well-being session with a midwife, and we have like 50 parents, and we actually get the parents to communicate with each other. And that's a big key as well, because, dad's overthinking over here, mum's overthinking over here. And when they get to communicate about their own fears or stresses or whatever, they tend to open up more as well. And so that's good for the relationship as well. So, getting parents to talk about their thoughts and feelings as becoming a new parent as well. So Zoom, I don't know if I can promote Zoom. I probably more, I didn't know much about Zoom before lockdown, but it's certainly actually have helped talking to parents anywhere in the world now. We can actually do it online, which is great. And the parents are really getting a lot from Zoom as well. I don't think we're going to go back like it was years ago or pre-COVID. I like to see a bit of face-to-face, but certainly it does help technology today, like you mentioned just now, with social media. Your face is away. Good thing about Zoom, you don't have to show your face as well, You can have a conversation and just listen to other fathers what they experience as well. So certainly something that has actually has benefited the parents. I apologise for that, Mark. My phone's going off here. I think it's my wife trying to phone me and see what's happening. But you're okay. Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. I mean, we can pause this if you'd like, if you needed to.
No, it's okay. Call. Yeah, I just hanged up on her. It's getting angry, Mark. Is it?
I can babble so you can text her if you'd like. No,
okay.
I guess what I was going to say is, and like I said, I will list in the article with this where people can connect with your network and so forth. And speaking of connecting, do you have any speaking engagements coming up? I know with the lockdown and so forth, you may not have anything like that, but things are definitely opening up here. And I'm wondering if you have any upcoming speaking engagements.
Yeah, I got one in America, actually, with PSI, Postpartum International Support, which is on 16th of June. It's coming from Florida. And so, yeah, I'm doing a lot. Funny enough, I'm speaking in Africa tomorrow, actually, and with a conference in Africa. We've done, that's the beauty of it, Mark, because I haven't left my attic since March the 16th, and I've spoken all around the world, without even leaving my attic, which is great. Like, so, but yeah, no, it's there's a couple of things, and I really want to push in America as well about what's happening in the UK and Australia. And there's a good video called the Still Face Experiment on dads, and there's some wonderful doctors in America, professors and doctor, I should say, and they understand about the importance of screening and supporting dads for their mental health as well. So yeah, some really good stuff coming out in America. But like you said, we just got to raise awareness and educate people that fathers can struggle during this time as well, Mark. So as I'm always grateful for you give me the time to raise that awareness as well, So
absolutely, I'm happy to give you a platform because it's very interesting stuff. And so you said you're in Africa tomorrow. I'm assuming that's Zoom, but is when you're in Florida, is that physical or is that Zoom also?
No, it's Zoom as well. Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, no, it's that's the thing. All my work has gone online mostly now since last March, 2020 when COVID happened, and I think that I can see the benefits of technology and an even bigger reach now, because now the conference is getting recorded. And I'll give an example with the African one tomorrow. It's getting recorded. So all the people, unfortunately, who can't pay for these conferences, it's a free conference. They get this education for free. And there's some really good, big keynote speakers on the conference as well. So, everyone should be entitled to this education, and conferences as well. So yeah, it's really going forward. And there's a couple of other things happening this year, which we actually changed policies in fathers in the UK now. We're looking at more of a holistic approach when it comes to parenting as well. So we've seen a big shift in recent years, and I think organizations now are starting to include fathers, which is really good. So it's going forward, Mark. It's going forward.
So you actually changed policy. That's very impressive.
Yeah, that changed policy. So long-term plan. So that's NHS in England and Wales, where I'm from. The government have actually including fathers in the perinatal period, as they say as well. So yeah, policy changes. There's loads of other things happening as well. So it's getting exciting now. It's really getting excited. But yeah, I want to share something with you today, Mark. Actually, I haven't told a lot of people, but I'm actually moving on for fathers next year. And a couple of good friends of mine are actually going to be taking over, and I really want to start helping people, who've gone through dyslexia or ADHD or trauma. And it's funny, it comes from America actually. It's called post-traumatic growth, and how people have gone through trauma and actually gone on to do other good things as well. So so that's a new thing I'm doing next year. I think I've come after 12 years. I think personally for me, it was the time to move on, and I'm really happy with what I've achieved, and I left other fathers and give them a chance to have ideas of what it looks like as well. So yeah, I'm excited to say that late next year, I'm looking into helping people who've gone through trauma and helping them. Why can't they write a book like yourself and me and why can't they do this? Why can't, if I can do it, certainly they can too. So I'm trying to motivate them that something good has got to come out of something bad, and that's what's happened to me. And of course, my wife Michelle, she works in mental health. A lot of good things that come out of something bad, what's happening in our lives, which I wouldn't be speaking to you today if I hadn't gone through those experiences, even though it was really hard. But yeah, I want something good. I want to have people think, yeah, once you've got that support, why can't you write a book about it or do a talk or help other people?
Yeah, because even if you just help a few people and you raise their awareness, you've done something really amazing that you wouldn't have reached those people. For me, the awareness came. I think I may have mentioned this to you last time, but the taking my kids to a psychologist when they were very young to make sure they were okay because they were going through quite a bit. That's when I learned about me. I hadn't gone to the psychologist about me, but, and again, just use the standard stereotype as the male where you just kind of keep it inside and go, well, whatever, everybody suffers, everybody's hurting. So, whatever, I'll just suffer quietly, and I just want to make sure the kids are all right. But that was when the psychologist, that was my epiphany that started the entire Alchemy for Life system, was when she looked at me and she said, they're really well adjusted and they're surprisingly, well adjusted considering the environment. But what are you doing for you?
Yeah.
I had the deer in the headlights. I had no answer. And that's what I've said a number of times in a number of podcasts. I wasn't doing anything for me. And that's where she made the point that, well, if you don't do anything for you, there'll be nothing left to give to them.
Absolutely.
And it's the right. And it's the same thing with two parents. If they're both suffering or one of them is suffering and they don't get help, well, then they don't have anything to give to the other person. And then that just makes matters worse, and then two people living in a house, one of them's sort of alone and they don't realize it and they can't render help. And that just complicates matters. So I think your tackling of trauma and things like that probably are going to help a lot of people.
Absolutely, Mark. Exactly. You couldn't say it. That's exactly what. Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, I don't get lost for words, but what you just said, that is exactly what I think as well. So yeah, exactly. And do you know, talk with myself, like I said, it's probably good role models. When your children grown up, what you've done, written a book and all sorts of things, and that gives them encouragement. Possibly they can do something like that as well, So that's what I tend to use my work I'm doing is to say to my son, look, I've done all this thing helping people, and he's taken stock from that as well. My son wants to be a nurse when he grows up.
Oh,
so yeah, so he didn't want to be a footballer. Probably on more money, but no, and I encourage that. Like I said, he's staying on in school now, and he's going to obviously in 2 years go to university, and he wants to be a nurse, So I think would he have gone down that path if it wasn't for my work I'm doing, and Michelle, So it's definitely. I think, like I said, what we've gone through and different things as well. I think that's helped our children as well, and actually, like I said, my dad's wrote a book, so something that they could be proud of as well and leave a bit of legacy.
Sure. And how old is your son now?
He's 17 now, 17 next, So,
wow.
He's probably the most educated person in my community about mental health at a young age. He's definitely most educated 17-year-old than when I was 30 years of age and didn't know nothing about mental health. So,
oh yes,
he's open up about his own feelings and how struggles about COVID, and that's what we got to do with children. We got to let them express their own feelings and say it's okay. It is tough sometimes, and rather than saying, "Oh, man up," we don't need that. That's not good, is it? So it's we need children to express their own feelings in different ways and make sure they're okay as well.
Yeah, and I would imagine that nursing's a good start for him, but he may go into a specific sector of that and helping people. But it's really nice that he's at least at this point in his life, and who knows when someone's 17, but it's nice in this part of his life that he's already thinking ahead to helping people.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly, yeah. And you're right. He might choose to do something else. But I think he wants to do something that helping people, and so it's good. It's all, like I said. It's what came from a bad time in our lives. Obviously, a lot of good things that come out of something bad, and so it's got you got me thinking, Mark. What you just said early on, and it's exactly what your experience is like as a dad, and we don't want people struggling with their mental health and it's so common, especially with dads. We just need to be honest. I wish I was more honest when I was going through it, but like I said, it's nothing to be ashamed if you are struggling. Just speak to somebody, speak to your family member, and there's no shame in it.
No, and it is hard because you like you said, you mentioned guilt and questioning, and you want to support your wife and so forth, but you also have to be cognizant of your own feelings because you want to be the best you can be for your family. And I would have never even had the chat with the psychologist had I not taken my kids in, because I didn't go to see her myself. So, but it was such an impactful thing for me. And people throw around terms like self-love and all that stuff now. And, it sounds, frankly, it sounds a little cliche, and it can sound a bit selfish, like, oh, you're doing that for you, or you're going to go take a bubble bath. Oh, how nice, you selfish person. And it's like, no, it's not even what you do for yourself. It's just the act of saying, I'm important too. And just the feeling of calling yourself important is what can get you through the hard times in life. Because sometimes you have a long day or you have a difficult time and you think, well, I'm going to do this because I get to go have chocolate later, or I get to go sit in my pajamas and watch TV because I deserve to do that. Or I'm going to go, more importantly, I'm spending some money to treat myself to a vacation, or I'm spending some money on something that I've always wanted, or I'm going to have this really quality time with someone super important to me in my life, and so forth. And just the act of thinking, oh, I deserve that? Yes, you do. Okay, that changes you.
Absolutely, Mark. It's like the old scenario, on the airplane. The oxygen mask comes down. Who do you put on first, yourself or the baby? Well, you can put it on yourself because then you can help the baby then, So you're right. If that's what I've learned as well. You have to look after yourself first before you can help other people as well, So, my mental health, if I'm struggling with mental health, how can I help other people as well? So
Right.
it's very important to look after yourself first, and then you're more likely to be the better version to help other people as well. And that's including obviously your family. So yeah, you're totally right. Totally right.
Thank you. It's such a simple thing, but it's one of the hardest conversations to have with someone. It's almost harder than if someone is acting up. If someone's behaving in a way that's not proper, it's almost easier to have a conversation with them and say, hey, look, I've seen you're going through this and you're doing that, versus, hey, you should take care of yourself. Yeah. And you would think that's an easier conversation to just simply tell someone, hey, maybe you shouldn't work 15-hour days. Maybe you'd have more balance in your relationship with your wife. If you didn't work so much, you could then take on some of the care duties with your child, and then she'd have more energy, and then maybe you could have a date night and you would make each other happy, and all that would stem just from you treating yourself better. But people just don't get how that's all connected, and it's an oddly difficult conversation to have with people sometimes, because
it's the balance. Yeah. No, that is funny. That is so right, Mark. On that right balance, you got to have a balance in it. Yeah, it's so right.
Yeah, and that's what Alchemy for Life was founded on, was supposed to be about having balance. And balance isn't sexy. Balance isn't exciting. Nobody doing, oh, I'm balanced. Oh, good for me. But you don't realize that the balance is something that's dynamic in your life that you have to continually look at. And as you said, changes. I mean, look at you. You spent all this effort into the fatherhood and the dad stuff, and now you're branching out into something else because it's time. And for you needed to adjust the balance of the direction you're going. And, it's just like the amount of energy and time you spend with a newborn versus a toddler versus someone who's 10 is quite different. And it's just like when your kids get to be teenagers and they don't even want to talk to you anymore because all they want to focus on is their friends. And, psychologically, they're pushing. They want to find a wall there. And so when they're like 13, 14, they start pushing really hard, and you have to push back. And even though it's counterintuitive, they want you to push back. And it's hard for people to understand that, because when they just have little kids and toddlers, it's so much easier to just say, well, I know best and I'm going to take care of you. But when you have kids that are pseudo semi-adults, it becomes a very difficult time. They want to branch out on their own, and they want to be their own person. But at the same time, they're mostly still a child. And, when you're 30, 40, 50 years old, somebody who's 20 is still a child. So, and it's a hard thing, but it's that balance. And it's so important now. If you pull back on one thing and something else changes and something allows you to do something else, or you work smarter, which allows you to have 2 extra hours in your day. And it's just amazing. And the example I've given, since we're going on this balance thing, the example I'd given with people was, I had someone I was helping who wanted to basically write a book, and I had someone else who wanted to play the piano. And basically, we freed up time for her. We freed up time for her, but she didn't have the energy. It's the same thing. If people want to write a book, as just because you have, I have 3 hours now, I'm going to write a book. Well, it doesn't work that way. No. Because if you're drained from life, if you're drained or you're not even in a good mood, you just want to sit on the couch and stare at mindless television because you have all the time in the world. You just don't have the energy, or you have the energy and excitement for it, but you just don't have the time for it. And so all those things play a part in people's psyche, I believe.
Absolutely, yeah. It's funny. It's a good conversation just said, and I want to bring up is that it's very important to, as a relationship, when you have a new baby as well, how, there's a lot of conflict in relationships, and that transition, loads of things happening. But it's always, have time as parents and enjoy yourself as parents as well. Have a time, because once that little baby grows, it's only you two as parents then, and then you got to go in a different transition, so keep talking. I mean, don't, just maybe I haven't worded it out properly, but this is something we do bring up when we do these well-being sessions with parents. Make sure you have time together as parents and enjoy as well. I know you got a little baby, but you've got to make time for yourselves. So then that relation can be as best it can be, and that has a benefit when both parents are happy. Then obviously the child can be happy as well,
Right. Because there are these people that all of a sudden they have a 17 or 18-year-old who wants nothing to do with them. And they go, oh, wait, who are you now?
Yeah,
oh, you're living in this house?
Exactly.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. So you got to make balance for your relationships as well as being a parent as well. And I'm all into this, Mark, big time. I love all this stuff. So exactly. And that's funny enough, that's part of my work going into my next field as well, very much, trying to, get people to look at themselves and think, okay, using that time effectively as well. And
if you ever want to talk more about balance, you know where to come. I mean, I built the whole system based on it, so, and finding people the balance in their life. And a lot of it, stems from this energy that we, like you and I assume, are getting energy from this interaction we're having. This is fun. This is a cool talk. And I'm going to leave here being exhausted and excited, from the talks that we have. I love this kind of stuff. And, some things you do that's very energizing. And sometimes some things in life are not so energizing. They're very draining. And if you can figure out the stuff, I tell people in one of my articles, I say, go towards the light. And if there's something in your life that's energizing, you will do it more, go towards those sort of things. And I'm assuming that played a part in what you're doing. And you're saying, okay, I want to go towards the light more. I want to go towards the thing that really gets me going and energized. So, it's hard because reality says, well, maybe you're not getting paid for that energizing thing. And sometimes you make it work. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's only a hobby. Sometimes it's a job. Sometimes it's a career. And sometimes it's a calling. And sometimes you work your conveyor belt job so that you have the time to do your calling. And sometimes your calling becomes your career. And so it's just all really neat stuff, I think.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. I think you're right to say that. I think, like I said, after, and it's good to refresh yourself in different ideas as well. And that's why, like I said, as much as I love my work, but I couldn't see myself doing this for the next 20, 30 years. I needed something more away from the depression, talking about those experiences. So I needed something more positive as well. And but also I realized that some of my work overlaps into my next sort of journey as well, and sharing people, saying people like, you can do this, you can't, don't say you can't, don't listen to people if they haven't got the same ideas and thoughts as you have, and what they may think that, your vision is totally different to theirs. So that's what I'm going into next year. Say, look, follow your passion, and if you enjoy it, then a lot of good things can come out there, even if it's not paid. A lot of work I've done over the years haven't been paid, Mark, and I absolutely love doing it. So yeah, it's a follow your passion and getting a good life balance as well. And yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think couples, which is what you focus on too, is couples. They get energy from each other. And if one person's energy is in the wrong place or tired or whatever, that can affect the other person. And then you add the variable of two people trying to raise a child and somehow trying to stay in a good mood and all that stuff. It just all is it's a very fragile system. So, just becoming aware of it, I think, is very important. And I bet, there's people that just, if you sit two parents in a room without their toddler and they actually get to breathe a little bit and you say, okay, you guys are important to each other. I mean, that in itself is probably very, very refreshing for some people who are just busy running around and feeding their kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, Mark, I could talk about this all day.
Yeah. And I don't want to take too much more of your time. I would talk with you for 3 hours on this, and I would love to. And I'll sneak up on stage with you next time you jump on stage.
Oh,
and I'll
absolutely,
talk about
absolutely, definitely, honestly, No, I think, like I said, probably I know when things, and it's not going to be straight away, but obviously 18 months, 2 years. I think it'd be great to have this conversation again and explain my next, sort of journey, and if there's anything that maybe we could do together in the future as well. So yeah, it'd be great, definitely. And I just, like I said, it's always great having a conversation, Lisa, because you actually, you exactly what you say is exactly what I think and feel as well sometimes, and it's great what you're doing. Honestly, absolutely great.
Well, cool. Well, wonderful. I won't take much more of your time then. I just, is there anything you want to shout out to? And obviously after we're done, you're more than welcome to connect with me on any other links that you want to provide, so because I want to make sure you're as findable as possible from people, so that they can see your, you can see your work and your book and your movie and your network and your future endeavors and all that good stuff. So is there anything in particular you want to shout out?
It's well, they can Google like Mark Williams Father's Mental Health or Mark Williams Daddy Blues. That might come up. LinkedIn, or on LinkedIn, I found yourself. And Twitter, Mark Williams FMH on Twitter. So anything on Mark Williams Father's Mental Health, they'll find me then as well. So that'd be
wonderful.
Great. That'd be excellent. Yeah, thank you as well.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me again. It's hard to believe it's already been a year, because you joined me for last Father's Day, because you're one of the founders of Men's Mental Health, International Men's Mental Health Day, which is the day after Father's Day, as you said. So it's just amazing that it's already been a year.
Gosh, gone quick. It's gone quick, Mark.
Yeah, and maybe if you physically are in Florida or one other of the states here, I will definitely fly and see you. I would love to.
Oh, that'd be great one day, Mark. Absolutely. That'd be great, honestly. And look after yourself as well. Yeah, definitely. And is this getting recorded now, Mark? No?
Yeah, this is right. This is still recording. Yes, sir.
So I just thought then that's the thing with you. It's like having a conversation, which is great. Just having a chat. It's not like.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I mean, I love having just conversations instead of going through bullet points with people and saying, okay, so you have this, instead of like a natural conversation. And people sometimes are surprised by that. So I won't take any more time. I'm gonna let you go, at least in the recording. And thank you again for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Take care.
Hey there. Thanks for listening. I always appreciate your feedback. I really, really do. Wanted to let you know that the Sword and the Sunflower audiobook won as Best New Author for 2020. My podcast is available wherever you consume podcasts, and my books are available on Amazon. Take care.